there. My name is Mogwena Moloto, and I am the host of a new podcast, which you've come to the very first episode of, and this is 0 to Free. And this is where we're going to be talking to freelancers that have turned their side hustle into a business. And we've got some great guests right in studio. And actually, when I was thinking about this, it was like actually having to work for yourself and turning your passion into something that you can get an income from. It really takes a lot of decision making, and we're going to be chatting to two of our guests that are here in studio today that have actually done that, and I want to find out how they moved from the normal side hustle into getting to make that a whole business. So we're going to find that out. So today in studio we've got Tumelo Mphirima. Mphirima, yes, my bad. It's Tumelo Mphirima, and he's the managing director of Casuistry.
Yes.
Casuistry Institute. He made us say very difficult words. It's Casuistry Institute, and they specialize in helping businesses answer customer questions. And we want to find out a little bit more about that, because I want to know, what customer questions are you answering? And of course, we've also got another guest that's joining us, and his name is Joshua Lew, and he is a freelance animator and motion designer and illustrator whose job is just to make things look and move digitally and make them look all nice and exciting. So welcome, Josh. Thank you so much for joining us. Tumelo as well.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. Firstly, let's start Tumelo. Tumelo, what do you do? What are these questions that you are answering from consumers?
Sure. Okay. So some people call us a think tank. Some people say we're a research firm, right? And some people say that we're a sales and business development firm, right? But essentially, how I like to think about it is we are customer solutions tactical force, right? So the knowledge that we like to use is when you need to solve big problems in war, you call in the army.
Yes.
Right? When you need to find bin Laden, you call in the SEALs.
Hey.
Right?
Hey. Yes.
So we are the SEALs of customer questions. How do you get more of them? How do you make them happy? How do you essentially do all the things that across a sales metric would improve, but we go to the causal links of it, right? It's a combination of understanding human behavior, what the commercial opportunities of understanding that human behavior is, and then basically putting out the outputs for it. So we're media agnostic, so we'd never start with a marketing solution that is social media or a website, right? The answer to that question could actually be a flyer, but we don't know until we actually investigate what guaneth.
Until we come to you.
100%.
And you figure out how we can actually do that.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, wow. Really interesting.
Yeah.
This is very interesting. Josh, how did you get into animation? Like, I know it's we're seeing a lot of animation. We grew up on animation. But like thinking of it as a career is like, what? How did you get into that?
Yeah, so I think I fell in love with animation probably just like you. When I was a child, I fell in love with Pokemon, Dragon Ball Z, Yu-Gi-Oh, all of the anime, and I always loved the way they tell unique stories. I like that in animation you can do whatever you want. It can be fantastical, it can be extravagant. You can tell so much more story than you can if in live action. And
that's true.
Yeah, so I actually got my start in fine art and eventually found my way over to animation. Mostly just because I loved telling stories. And I think at the end of the day, that's all animation is. It really is just the medium or the solution that Tumelo was speaking about earlier.
That's amazing. If you want to be in animation, yes, started. Just go with what Josh did over there. So now we're talking about exactly what this podcast is about. We're talking about freelancers and how you are turning your side hustle into your main hustle, basically. So let's first start at the very beginning. What is freelancing, and what's the difference between freelancing and then working for a company formally? So what's the difference between that?
Josh?
So I think freelancing, just to be simple, is not working for anyone in particular. You kind of do the jobs for whatever work comes along. You work, and I don't know, how would you define that transition into it?
So I think part of your definition for me of what I think about it, freelancing is a way of working, right? It's sort of a way of working, and freelancing essentially allows for you to determine capacity or determine your personal capacity. Whereas when you're working for someone, you sort of have to do what's on your plate.
Yeah,
right. If I'm giving you tasks, if there is a deadline, if you're contributing to a team, you have very little say as to how much you can and cannot take. You can try and negotiate it, but at the end of the day, there is sort of a job description that says you are meant to fulfill a particular KPI. Whereas as a freelancer, you are determining your ways of work as a result of the value that clients are willing to pay for. Yeah, that's how I define freelancing.
Yeah, I like that. I really do like that. So now that you guys are freelancers, right? I'm not sure. Like Tumelo, you were working before, like formally working. Josh, were you?
Yes,
you were also working. So both
yeah.
of you basically were working before, and you guys had this idea. You guys had the side hustle. So then, how did you then decide on now making this your main thing? Like, what is the thinking process behind that?
Sure. So I think on my side, there wasn't a lot of thinking, right? It's not as logical as a lot of people would think about it as. So one thing that I wanted to ensure is I wanted to be in a field or a career path that allowed for me to learn as much as I possibly could about everything.
Okay.
Right. So one thing that I think about, I guess the drawbacks of university, there might be many of them, but one of the drawbacks is you can't customize your degree. So what if you want to do neuroscience, psychology, economics, and marketing at the same time?
Ish.
You have to
You
get.
can't study forever.
You essentially have to get 5 different
You
degrees.
can't study forever.
Right? You essentially have to get 5 different degrees. But if you could tailor that into a custom package for how you want to solve problems in the world, that'd be awesome. That'd be great, right? So essentially, when I went into the freelancing spaces, I wanted to get clients to pay me to learn. So literally, this was the formula. I was like, I'm working now. I don't enjoy it.
What were you doing? Working. What were you?
So I did a couple of things, right? So I was a language consultant at some point, right? And then I worked for a company that does deceased estates.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And then I started a social media agency
All right.
while I was doing these 2 things.
So at the same time.
Yeah, all 3 of these.
All 3 of these.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I was doing
You
all
had
3 of
time
them.
on your hands. You definitely don't have 24 hours.
Well, essentially, is what would happen is the deceased estate and the language consulting was at different times.
Yeah.
Those were like 9 to 5.
Okay.
Right, and then the social media agency was
After hours.
After hours.
All right.
Yeah. So
Makes
that's
sense.
where the transition from essentially being a full-time employed person to testing what skin in the game and an appetite for people to pay for a skill would then look like. Right? Yes. So the formula was quite simple. I said, okay, I'm going to jump full-time into building a business that can help startups launch, right? Because I realized that there were limitations in what social media is able to do. Because what you're doing is you're solving a problem for a product that you assume is good.
Yeah.
Whereas sometimes the client is blaming you for sales output, but you're like, yo, this is a terrible product. So I wanted to go back into the equation of understanding how do you understand product design, how do you understand how the promotion structure should be, how to price it, and ensure that you are communicating to the appropriate customer, right? Yeah, I didn't have a name for it at the time. I later on found.
And then you found the most difficult name.
So at the time it was called Nucleus, right?
Okay.
Because nucleus is part of an atom, right?
Yes.
And an atom is like the smallest unit of measurement for what makes us as people. So I was like, I want the smallest part of the measurement or the smallest part of the measurement, right? Essentially it's because what that was for me to understand what the first principles of building a business was, and then how do you essentially learn all the other component parts that's contextually relevant to Africa. And yeah, I said this to people and they were like, we'll pay you money. And I was like, interesting.
Wow.
Right.
And that's when you just jumped.
Yeah, my first client I found in an elevator after committing to pay for an office space.
How did you get a client? People are getting clients in the elevators. That's what I'm saying. People are getting. Tumelo got a client in an elevator.
I'll walk through the story very quickly, right? So what happened was I went to a co-working space called Workshop 17, right? And when I went there, I essentially just paid for the first and the second month of rent without any surety for an income.
Sure.
Right? And essentially, while I was on the elevator going to go get lunch, I was going down and I was wearing like a Golden State Warriors t-shirt, and a guy on the floor below us came into the elevator and he says, oh, you're a Golden State fan, right? It's like, it seems like everyone is a Golden State fan. And I'm like, I was a fan when they were underdogs, right? And he's like, no way. I'm like, no, for real. I'm a point guard, so I loved how Stephen Curry played. I'm also a big fan of Kyrie Irving. So essentially what happened was when the Cavs and the Golden State Warriors were at, I guess, their forming stages, I used to follow them quite a bit.
Sure.
Right? He happened to be a Kevin Durant fan, so we spoke about basketball. Then he asked me, what do I do? And I discovered something called the talking logo. And at the time, what I said was, I sell ideas for a living. And he's like, what does that mean? Right? And I said, if you have an idea, I help you polish it and take it to market. And he's like, I have an idea. Let's have dinner.
Amazing.
And the rest
Your
is
first
history.
client. Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So Josh, back to how you decided to leave.
I don't think I can live up to that.
But that's fine, right? That's fine. I mean, it's your journey.
Yeah.
So how did you then decide to leave your 9 to 5? What was that decision process like to now be like, okay, now I'm going to be a freelancer with whatever pay it comes with?
So I think I had the exact opposite route to I was very, very planned.
Yeah.
I didn't take any risks at all, which was also my problem. That's also just as big a problem, can I say. But so I was working in agency for about 3 to 4 years, and I'm in marketing agencies, sorry. And I was hopping around doing a bunch of them, trying to find if I could find a fit, someplace I liked. Nothing was really working. And I took originally a 6-month contract at a small kind of independent agency, and yeah, I thought it was very interesting to kind of get in on the ground up. I could be kind of the lead animator on the team, and yeah, still the same problems as big agency, didn't enjoy it. So I took another 6-month contract. Everyone was telling me, no, go, try freelance, see what it's like. And while I was doing that, thankfully, the creative director I worked at the previous company was like, got some work, would you want it? And I said, yeah, cool, I'll do it after hours. So I was working probably 8 hours every night, just trying to cram in as much freelance as I can to see if I could buffer that contract. Because also the other big problem that you find in agency life is a lot of these places now, they're giving contracts because they really want to be able to get rid of you as soon as they can. As soon as any problem comes up, you're no longer a human being.
Shucks.
So yeah, I took, at the end of that contract, I decided, no, let's take the step, let's do it. And I had about 3-4 months worth of savings backed up, because I'm like, we're going to be very planned about this. I have nothing. I've got nothing, nothing planned in terms of projects. Yeah, and I think I was just lucky. I got a lot of networks from previous agency life, and they were able to give me work to kind of fully pack my first month, which is a blessing. And I think for me it was exact opposite. Just really trying to plan it out, meet as many people as you can, save as much as you can, and see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Both risks though, whether you're planned or not so planned, like Tumelo.
Yeah.
But like it's still a big risk. I mean, in this whole thing, what are people saying? Like, what is your family saying? What are your friends saying? Yeah.
Okay, so I hadn't spoken to my family. As you can tell, I tend to make these decisions more from intuition. I mean, there's a lot of logic and thought process in how we work, right? So I don't like anyone that's looking to be like, is there any thinking happening at all?
Yeah.
It's like there's a lot of thought process and logic that goes into how we work. But I think another thing is life is risk in general. I remember the advice that I got, specifically because I was the sort of person that tried to hedge for risk, right?
Sure.
It's like life is risky. You can get hit by a bus.
Any
just
day.
Leaving this building, we can get hit by a bus. The odds of that are low, but you can still get hit by a bus, right? Yeah. And the possibility of that happening just sort of means that you have to sort of take decisions sometimes that don't make sense to the world, and you'll sort of, in the fullness of time, say, I told you so, right? In the fullness of time. So, so with my parents, it was sort of a situation where they sort of found out when I was just leaving the house. It was like, it's like, actually, where do you go every day? Because as far as we know, you no longer have a job, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh no, I'm just at the office. Like, at the office with what? Like, what?
Which
what,
one?
What are you talking about, right? And I'm like, I'll explain when I come back home, right?
Yeah.
I just need to go now. I just say, okay. So, okay, I essentially had a conversation with my mom later on. We had a little bit of a tiff around that. And she's comfortable with this because, I mean, she's like a life coach and that sort of thing. So she's very comfortable with having uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah.
And I said to her, I'm like, the problem is I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to project your fears onto me, right? What happens is when they were much younger than we are, and it's probably experience of most, you'd say, second generation university educated kids, is your parents went probably into a lot of debt trying to get you to get an education, but also just trying to make sure that you guys are living, right? So there's a big fear in our community that you will get into an insurmountable amount of debt that you just won't be able to dig yourself out of a hole on, right? So security is their best intention for you. Therefore, you going to a job and getting a promotion and then working your way up in corporate seems like the most logical
and more stable.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they mean well by that, right? So I said to her, I was like, listen, you are my mother. Your instinct is to protect me, right? Entrepreneurship is literally the opposite of protection. It's thrusting yourself into risk.
Yeah.
So I didn't tell you because what I would be saying is fight your motherly instinct to protect me for the comfort of me knowing that you're supporting me. I was like, I was sort of going to do it, and then once you're able to see that it works, say sorry later.
Yeah, just say sorry later.
Yeah, which is essentially
It's always easier.
Yeah, it's always easier.
Apologize.
Yeah, you just apologize and you move on. We did it anyway. So Josh, did people have anything to say on your side?
Yeah, of course. Everyone always has something to say, don't they? But I think something that stuck out to me last year when I was making the decisions, I saw a post on social media, as we do, and this guy, quite experienced freelancer, said, which is actually more stable? You earning an income from someone who can fire you at any time, which is the case I had at the moment, or for you diversifying your income with 5 or 6 different clients, and cool, if one drops you, cool, you got another 4 or 5. Keep it like that. And I think that really changed my perception. It's like everyone's still looking at that stability of I don't know, the 90s, early 2000s that my brother and my sister had. But we don't have that.
I like that.
Yeah. But when I started, I think I'm also like, I had my partner and a lot of friends who were like, we think you should go freelance just because, 1, you're not happy, but 2, you'll make more and you'll have more time because you're killing yourself working 20 hours every day.
Yeah. Agency life.
Yeah, agency life. I think my mom was the only one who was a bit hesitant, but like you said, she's just there to protect. And
true.
I mean,
they want the best for us.
Yeah, and I think the job for us as freelancers, as entrepreneurs, is not to take it personally, but to say, cool, I can separate myself enough from those opinions.
Yeah.
You want the best, but I know what's better for me.
Sure.
And I think it was as soon as my mom could kind of see, cool, I've got one or two clients coming in, she took a step back and was like, I understand. I support you with what decision you make. Yeah. And before that, it was just people telling me, actually, go do it. You need to do it before you killed yourself in agency life.
And the truth is, and come back to your point, right, is you can't really ever be sure of anything, right? It's not like you were sitting at home twiddling your thumbs playing PlayStation the whole day and saying I'm a freelancer. Right? You were actively going out, looking for clients, doing work and that sort of thing.
And utilizing your skills.
And at the end of the day, it's a matter of whoever's looking to support you needs to see the evidence that you're going to be okay.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And that's it. They just need to see evidence that you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
So I think any advice that I give to someone is just like, show progress. Right? Show traction. Right? And in that way, if you were able to, so I got an office space, right? And ever since, I've had an office space. So it's like, at least you can pay for the office space.
At least. And at least you have an office space.
You know what I mean?
So that's great. So we're just going to end it right there, just for now. And we're just going to go to a real quick ad break, and we'll be back with some more of Josh and Tumelo's journey as freelancers.
This podcast is created and sponsored by Moya, a startup that provides a smart money manager that helps freelancers make sense of their numbers and reach their financial goals by providing a mobile app which assists freelancers manage their cash flow, invoices, and tax all in one place. Moya is running some exciting initiatives and campaigns over the next couple of weeks. A free coffee and working space for the day at Seam Coffee in 4 ways until the end of May. Moya and Seam Coffee have also partnered up to bring you a networking event for freelancers at the cafe on the 11th of June. Watch out for more details. And finally, do watch out and subscribe to Moya's weekly newsletter, Moya Mondays, for weekly tips and news about the world of freelancing. This podcast is brought to you by Moya, your guide to successful freelancing.
All right, we'd just like to thank our sponsor, Moya, for sponsoring this podcast. So let's just jump straight into it with our guests, Tumelo and Josh. And I just want to find out, right? So are you working for yourself as a passion? Is this a passion? Or is it because you want to be your own boss? Or was it an opportunity that came out?
Sure. So I struggle with my self-concept being an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
I think we're a lot more than what we do, right? So essentially, is I don't glorify the fact that I'm working for myself and that sort of thing. I think it's a means to an end at the end of the day. If some venture capital company was like, here's 60,000 rand a month, to do investment decisions on high growth business opportunities, I'd be like, sure. But I do understand that the best way for me to, number one, express my talents, number two, to be able to achieve the sort of things that I'm looking to achieve, working within the structure that I've created is the best way for me to do that, right?
Okay.
So I think one of the barometers in the test of whether or not you should jump into freelancing, being an entrepreneur, is to say, is this the best way for me to live a successful life? And you have to have that definition of success, right? In and around it. And I'll just quickly define what success is to me, right? Is do things that I love with people that I love in a way that allows for me to provide for myself and for my family, and to be present for them.
So this is a passion and opportunity.
Yeah, so I think it's both those things and not. It's like it's essentially to say that it's the best way for me to be myself.
All right.
Yeah.
Love that. Josh?
I didn't know that was the way to phrase how I felt until right now.
Now you got the words to it.
Exactly, I got the words to it. But it's so true. I was feeling the same thing of like just that utter burnout working 9 to 5 and everything. But reframing the way I worked as saying, no, it's work. It doesn't have to be my entire identity, no.
Yeah.
And I really did go into it thinking I want to be able to take control over my life a little bit, be able to see my family.
Yes.
And spend time with friends who, when you're working 9 to 5, sometimes you lose a lot of your humanity.
Yeah.
And it was really just trying to claim back a little bit of that. And so passion, a bit of opportunity, but mostly just redefining what it means to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And being you, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Love that so much. So then now that you are your own boss, now that you're working for yourself, you found that balance of having your own life and being yourself. So how does it feel? Because I think this is like something that people are always like thinking about, like how is it going to feel when I earn my own money? How does it feel for you guys to earn your own money, to make your own income?
I think Josh, you can go first.
Ooh. I think the thing is, it is first and foremost, it's stressful.
Yeah.
Like it's always going to be as soon as you don't have that constant income and on the 25th of every month. But there's some bit of ownership over that, like being able to say, I didn't just push a button to make this project. I sought after the client. I managed expectations. I learned to do accounting, learned how to do all of that. And I think it goes back to what you said earlier, Tumelo, with being an entrepreneur or a freelancer you're not just doing the same thing all day, every day. You learn so quickly and you learn so much. And I think that's also so exciting. But it is difficult. It's tricky, especially from a finance point of view, at least that's what I felt. Learning how to manage and make more. And sure, taxes are rough, guys.
Hey, don't even talk about that. Don't even talk about that.
Yeah.
But I want to, so before I get to you, Tumelo, I just want to ask on a taxes point of view, as a freelancer, how do you then know I'm supposed to pay tax like this or like that? Like how does it differentiate from when I'm working 9 to 5 and I get my SARS thingy and then I have to pay that and then that's it? How does it now work as a freelancer?
Yes. So in the most practical way for freelancers to work is basically just put aside a 25 to 28% of your income every month as a little nest egg, and at the end of your tax year you go to an accountant, they work all your accounts for you. Rather do it through them because they know exactly what to put as expenses, liabilities, everything, and you get some of your money back. But first thing you do, beginning of every month after you've sent your invoices and you get paid, put money aside for tax, and then you pay yourself with whatever you have left.
There you go. how to do your taxes. So we also do this here. So Tumelo, what's your take on earning your own money? How does that feel?
It's
being your own boss.
Hard. It is difficult, right? It is sometimes very not fun.
Yeah.
Right. I think a lot of the time that's why your self-concept can't be wrapped up in being a freelance or an entrepreneur, because sometimes the math doesn't add up and the unit economics of your life doesn't add up, and you have to go back into being in a job.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So because you've wrapped up your identity in being a freelance or being your own boss, it's gonna crush you. You might actually have an existential crisis a little bit, right? You're like, oh my gosh, I was this entrepreneur person and now I have to be beholden to a power, right? So number one, it's very difficult, but it's extremely rewarding, because after all the hard graft, after all the challenges, right? To hear a client come back to you, which we got feedback earlier on this year and said, your insights helped double my business last year.
Eish.
After coming out of COVID, it's like, what? You know what I mean? It's like, your insights helped me double my business, and I want to pay you more money to do that for me again.
Even better.
Do you understand? Right? For a client to say that to us, or when you're in a meeting and you see someone's eyes light up because they have an understanding of how they can package their product to better communicate with customers, for me, it's those moments that we live for, number one. Number two, it's because of all of that earning the income becomes something that you feel like you've earned. So we have a saying in the business, you eat what you kill. Right? Yes. You eat what you kill. Yes. And essentially it's the attitude that everyone has. So I'm graduating from, full-time employment to freelancer to sort of boss now.
Yeah.
And essentially I want everyone in the business to feel like they own part of the solution. Yeah. Because I know what it feels like to work for someone and for you not to feel like you're a solution architect in that business, just a cog in the system.
Yeah.
And essentially everyone in the business, their KPIs are structured to say, we win as a team, we lose as a team.
Sure.
Right? Therefore everyone is incentivized to help each other.
Just a quick one. Now that you guys are talking about this, just a very short on this. When did you start paying yourself? Because I think a lot of freelancers, especially when you're now doing all of these services and you've got other things to pay for as a freelancer.
Yeah.
When do you start paying yourself? Because some people forget to pay themselves. So when did you start paying yourself?
Sure. Yeah. This is a personal question.
It's a personal question, but it's gonna help other people.
I really do like it. So I've been doing this for the better part of 5 years now.
Okay.
Right? And like I'm saying, for the first 2 years, essentially, I was just learning how to do what I'm now currently doing.
Yes.
Whatever income that came into the business, there was no separation between the business and me. I was the business was me, right? The business account was my account. Everybody was having fun. And I think that was one mistake that I made, because essentially is when you're doing management accounts, it becomes a difficult thing to do, right? So paying yourself, even if it's 2,000 rands,
even
right?
if it's 100 rand.
Even if it's 100 rand, it's extremely important for you to be able to have personal income.
Yeah.
Why? Because you have things like credit scores, guys. You have things like bank statements that you have to give to people as soon as you want cars and things.
Yeah.
Right. So I think one of the things that we forget about is your personal income needs to reflect the work that you're putting into the business. Right.
Sure.
And it might not be consistent. So you might pay yourself quarterly, for example. Right. You might pay yourself annually, even, depending on what it looks like and depending on what the business flows are like.
Yeah.
But to have a actual agreement that you have with your business about your remuneration is extremely important. Otherwise, the business account is your account.
A mess. Josh, when did you start paying yourself?
I think it took me as a freelancer 3 months until I could pay myself a salary, which, you know what, I'm okay with. But before that, I was just living off savings. But to get to the place where you can go, no, this is this is the business's income, everything's been taken off and I can pay myself this. I think, like you said, it's very important, just not only just for your living standard, getting to buy food and petrol, but for all of the other things.
It took me 3 years. So he's 3 months.
He's 3 months.
Like, wow.
I can't get savings.
Planning, he was planning. I was like, vibes.
So we're just going to quickly close this off. We're having such an interesting conversation and I really want to take this just a bit further. But we obviously have to close it.
Yeah.
One sentence, literally. One sentence, Tumelo. One sentence. What is the one tip you would give someone that's thinking of being a freelancer, or someone that's already a freelancer and wanting to scale their business into an actual business? One tip. We'll start with whoever.
Don't do it. I'm just
No,
I'm joking. I'm
no,
sorry.
no, do it.
Yeah,
Do it.
I'm so sorry. I just but I'll do one sentence, but it will be all broken up, right?
All right.
Okay. So
All right.
respect maths, keep learning, communicate value well.
Say that again.
Respect maths,
Mm-hmm.
keep learning, and communicate your value well.
Fantastic.
Hmm.
I like that.
He-
That needs to be written down.
He does.
Josh.
Make a t-shirt.
Yeah, make a t-shirt.
I think,
Make a t-shirt.
That-
It's another business, yo.
I think mine's more practical. It's just save.
Yeah.
Whatever you make every month, make sure you have business savings, because work isn't consistent as a freelancer.
Yeah.
You might have good 2 months and an awful 3 months.
Yeah.
So just save.
All right, and that was such a great conversation that we had with Josh and Tumelo. Thank you so much for joining us. Really, really insightful, I must say. I mean, as a freelancer myself, I just need to remember to pay myself. So thank you for that. So I hope you also took something from the conversation that we had. So don't forget to join us again for the second episode. We will be telling you all about that on our social media platforms. And don't forget to also keep listening to us on all your favorite podcasting streaming platforms. So yeah, until next time, this is 0 to 3. It's myself, Mphirima, and we are out.
Zero